Shalom. Today I want to talk to you about a particular letter that was written in 1919 by Adolf Hitler. This is a letter that we should all read and be very, very familiar with, and I want to explain to you why. But first, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and hit the notification bell and give us a thumbs up. And tell your friends so that more people can learn about Today Through Jewish Eyes on this channel. So, the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Los Angeles, California, is in possession of that letter. I think there's like 2 in the world. This is the original letter written and signed by Adolf Hitler in September of 1919, just days after he had joined the German Workers' Party. That was 14 years before he would become Chancellor and take over Germany as a dictator. This letter was authenticated in 2011. Now, in and of itself, a letter from a world leader of the past is a valuable piece of history, even if it doesn't contain any important information, because it validates that very period it refers to. And this letter is quite different. It is possibly the very first recorded use of the word antisemitism by Hitler himself. At least it is the only one on record. It is also a rare letter because Hitler and his core group of evil co-perpetrators really went out of their way to communicate without leaving much in writing so that they could not be accused of their crimes. There are several reasons why everybody should know about this letter, and I want to go through each one of them briefly because it tells us about the past, and it also could warn us about what is coming up in the future, maybe not so distant. So first, the letter militates against Holocaust denial and revisionism. In the body of the letter itself, several references are made about the need to eliminate the Jews. Hitler doesn't beat around the bush. Even as early as 1919, he wrote its final, and I quote, its final aim, however, must be the uncompromising removal of the Jews altogether. Close quote. There's no way to look at such a statement and spin it in a way that would mean anything else but the desire to completely annihilate the Jews. Yet, many people around the world continue to claim that the Holocaust never happened, or was grossly exaggerated, or was simply some kind of propaganda for Jews to steal and colonize the land of Palestine. And I put Palestine in quotation marks. The next thing is that the letter proves that Hitler had a desire to eliminate the Jews as early as 1919. While historians and scholars alike will continue to speculate on why Hitler was so possessed with killing all the Jews as fast as he could, nobody really doubts that he did. His goal would only exponentially increase over the next 2 decades as he continued to gain more power, even in the wake of the failed beer hall putsch of 1923. Hitler then spent some time in prison where he would gather, structure, and put down his genocidal agenda in Mein Kampf. The letter also proves, that's the next point, the letter proves that Hitler was not insane. This is important. We have to be very careful not to label Hitler and his lieutenants as insane. Why? Because insanity leaves the door open for people's actions to be exonerated. It can be claimed that because of insanity, the party who acted was not really responsible. We cannot have that with Hitler and his men. Hitler was not insane. He was evil, and quite possibly demon-possessed, between which there is a big difference, insane and evil. Now, the letter shows him being very coherent and methodical in his thinking, which is something insane people don't usually have. However, he does not base his assessment of the Jewish people on facts. And that's something that we're going to look at in a few minutes. The letter ignores, that's the next point, the letter ignores that anti-Semitism is always wrong, regardless of how it is justified. What is anti-Semitism? Well, anti-Semitism is the irrational hatred of the Jewish people characterized by thoughts, words, and or deeds against them. There is absolutely no justification for anti-Semitism. Hitler wrote, and I quote, "Anti-Semitism as a political movement must not be, cannot be determined by emotional criteria, but only through the recognition of facts." Close quote. So first he tries to peg anti-Semitism as a political movement, probably in an effort to distance himself and those who would follow his advice from being accused of xenophobia. Then he insists that anti-Semitism cannot be an emotional reaction, but should only be based on facts, setting the stage for his legalization of the destruction of all Jews. But the question I have is, are they really facts? Well, the next point is the letter is written on a foundation of lies called facts, but they're not facts. It was fake news before fake news was even popular. He claimed that anti-Semitism was justified against the Jews, as long as it was not emotional but based on facts. The problem is that what he described as facts were misunderstandings at best and fabricated lies at worst. Hitler claims that first, and this is a quote from him in that letter, "First, the Jews are definitely a race and not a religious community," close quote. Wrong. He failed to understand the difference between Judaism and Jewishness. Judaism is a religion based on the Old Testament and later the Talmud. It is followed more or less closely by Jews around the world depending on their level of orthodoxy, from secular and agnostic to ultra-Orthodox. And it can be also followed by non-Jewish people who decide to put themselves under the Mosaic Law and follow the rules of Judaism and the customs of Judaism. So Judaism is something people follow, adhere to, and practice out of their own volition. Jewishness, on the other hand, is something that one is born into. One or two Jewish parents will guarantee that you have Jewish lineage regardless of your adherence to Judaism. Jewishness is something that one is born with and can never lose. Judaism is a choice. There are two different sides of the coin of Jewish identity and cannot be mixed or blurred. So that's important. Another point is that the letter includes the age-old lie of the greedy Jew. Expecting his audience not to know much about European history, or possibly he himself did not know much about it, although I doubt it, Hitler accuses the Jews of being greedy, of in centering everything around wealth and monetary gain, when he writes, and I quote, "The value of the individuals is no longer determined by his character, by the importance of his achievements for all, but solely by the amount of his possessions, by his money." There you have it, the greedy Jew. Hitler possibly did not even know about the origin of this lie that goes back to the Middle Ages, when basically Christians could not borrow money from other Christians. It was forbidden to them. So Jews who could not own property basically were in the position to become moneylenders. So Jews became moneylenders, but as they charge interest, the rulers of Europe taxed them increasingly more and forced them to raise their interest rate to survive. And it went on and on and on and on. The myth of the greedy Jew was born and continues to live today. It lived through the ages and it's alive today around the world. Hitler insists that Jews do everything for money. And I quote from the letter, everything which makes men strive for higher things, whether religion, socialism, or democracy, is for him only a means to an end, to the satisfaction of a lust for money and domination. So the Jew wants to have more and more money and wants to control the world. So we have to destroy the Jews. That's what Hitler is, the point he's trying to make. The next point is that the letter sets the stage for the Nuremberg Laws of 1935. The Nuremberg Laws, also known by the name of the Reich Citizenship Law and the Law for the Protection of German Blood and German Honor, were passed by Hitler and his government at the Nazi Party meeting on September 15, 1935. When Hitler wrote, and I quote, "But anti-Semitism based on reason must lead to the systematic legal combating and removal of the rights of the Jew, which he alone of the foreigners living among us possesses, legislation to make them aliens." Basically, and I close quote, he declared that Jews had to be made aliens or foreigners in the midst of the German people. This was achieved after the Nuremberg Laws were passed, and it greatly facilitated and justified the final solution. It was a progressive thing where Jewish people were stripped of their rights and became foreigners in a land that was not theirs. And that's how it got started, through the Nuremberg Laws of 1935. So when one looks at how Adolf Hitler came to power, some call it the perfect storm. You have a weak post-war economy, a people desperate for recovery at any cost, even if they have to lose their own freedoms. And of course, you need a scapegoat. And in this case, as in many cases, the scapegoat is the ultimate scapegoat of humanity, the Jew. This letter clearly validates that the horrors of the Holocaust happened and that Hitler was unashamedly behind it all. People's right and freedom are also at risk today. Such a letter goes beyond, way beyond exposing Hitler's intention, as it serves to warn us that all that happened against the Jews could happen again, and not just against the Jews this time. So really, we do not need to just learn that Hitler killed 6 million Jews. We also need to learn and teach the next generation to know, they need to understand what led ordinary people to accept that agenda and in many cases promote that agenda. The risk we run is that if we ignore these factors, we will not see them whenever history repeats itself. This is why this letter is very important, and we should all read it and have other people read it as well. Thank you, and shalom.